We have new data from LinkedIn that shows that women hold just 32% of leadership positions worldwide. In addition, the share of women in leadership positions has only increased 1 percentage point since 2016. Here to explain, career expert at LinkedIn, Catherine Fisher. Catherine, tell us more about what this study found.
Yeah, as you said, it's pretty disappointing that we've seen only a 1% increase since 2016. We were hoping for more progress. And if you really look at the roles, so women take up more than 50% of these entry-level jobs, which means that, something is happening along the way where it's just those opportunities are dropping when it becomes into the senior leadership roles.
Yeah, the study finding progression for women often stagnates at the transition into manager roles. Tell me more about that, and then I want Stephanie to chime in.
Yes, I think, part of this is that, what we find is that having a strong network is really important. Having a good mentor is really important. And men are really good at this. And historically, if you look at, how people network, there's the invisible network and there's the visible network. So when you think of the invisible network, this is, let's go to the golf course, make some deals, learn about the positions available, go to a private club for dinner. And then the visible network, of course, are places like LinkedIn, where you can really go in, you can meet people. It opens you up to many more opportunities. So the more we can get people to break the invisible networking and really embrace the role that it plays in terms of allowing women to find these opportunities and also having that mentor. You want to be a champion and you need a champion where you're working so that you're really getting the advice, you're understanding how to navigate the system in terms of getting those roles.
Stephanie.
Mika, I would say, though, when you think about those numbers, you have to factor in the pandemic. We know a disproportionate amount of women left the workforce during the pandemic, huge child care issues. And while we're talking more and more about how we're going to address affordable child care in this country, we haven't actually done it. And that is the issue why so many women, especially at the midpoints in their careers, remember, that shift from going entry level to midpoint to senior, those are huge time commitments. Those are huge travel commitments. And when you get to the American family, and we still go back to a traditional American family, it's pulling women from the workforce. Now, there are more jobs that are work from home. There are more creative opportunities. And while we don't love the numbers, we have to admit more and more companies across this country, big and small, are identifying that this gap exists, and they're trying to figure out how do we solve for it. We're certainly not in a good place, but we're in a much better place than where we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and when you and I started our careers.
It's so interesting what you said, Steph, because this is a lot of what we were talking about at the 3050 Summit in Abu Dhabi. And I was having a conversation with the top woman, the second at Cisco, Fran Katsoudas. And the conversation was all about meeting, especially high net worth talent, women that you want to retain and grow and keep. And it's sort of about what companies can do, how they need to meet them where they are, whether it's fertility benefits or whatever else they can do to make it so they can continue to do their jobs for the company. They have to change up the dynamic. It's not just be tough and stay in there. It's how do we keep you? And
I'm curious, are doing it, Mika. When you think about the labor shortage, the workforce vacuum that we have, companies, whether they like it or not, are being forced to address this because they don't want to lose talent.
No. And Catherine, how did your study fare for African-American women? I could only imagine the data is even more difficult for them.
It is more difficult. And, back to what you were saying in terms of the career breaks, yes, everyone needs to take some time off. I mean, this is something that happened, during COVID. We realized that some of the stigma is actually starting to go away. And, which is a good thing, because sometimes you need to take time off to take care of family members, to take care of yourself. And what we're finding is that if you can really, acknowledge that gap and then explain what you were doing, But back to your point, Mika, about the companies need to start rethinking how they're helping women. It's about how we're looking at the candidates. Is it that, are we looking at what school they went to? I would hope not. It should be about the skills that they have. So what's really important is that companies start rethinking how they're evaluating talent. Because if you had to take 3 years off, because for whatever reason, I can guarantee you are acquiring skills that could really translate well to these roles of leadership. I know a woman who took some time off. She ran her son's lacrosse team. That is fundraising. It is communication. It is getting the parents involved. Those are transferable skills. So really what I would encourage women to do is rethink the time off that they took and really look at those skills that they acquired.
I love it. Catherine Fisher, thank you very much. And for more on the LinkedIn study and what we can do to close the gender leadership gap, head over to knowyourvalue.com. And Stephanie Ruhle, thank you as well. We'll be watching you probably all day on all networks that NBC owns, as well as the 11th hour weeknights on MSNBC.